In the deep quiet of a Roman scriptorium, an oil lamp flickers against the dark. Your hand moves steadily, a stylus scratching across precious parchment in a world without printing presses. Every single book is a unique, handmade treasure, and you are the artisan responsible for its creation. By the end of this journey, you will know exactly what it was like to walk in the sandals of an ancient Roman book copyist. You will uncover the hidden pressures they faced, from the fear of a single costly mistake to the intellectual thrill of handling forbidden texts. What kind of person would you have been? A slave valued for your literacy, or a free citizen chasing a living with your pen? Your workspace is a world defined by disciplined order. Picture a room, often small and purposefully sparse, its walls bare to minimize distraction. The heart of this space is your writing desk, a simple, slanted surface positioned to catch the morning sun from a single, high window. Consistent, natural light is not a luxury, it is a necessity. A flickering shadow or a dim corner could lead to a misread letter, and every error wastes precious parchment or the even more expensive papyrus. You sit on a hard wooden stool, your body positioned for hours of focused work. Before you rests the exemplar, the original text you are tasked with copying, held securely on a tall reading stand. This is your sole guide, your map for the journey your hand must now take. A second stand holds the blank sheet that will become the new book. There are no shelves cluttered with scrolls, no stray tools. Ink pots, pens, and pumice stones for smoothing the writing surface are arranged with precision. In this clean, organized silence, the only sound is the deliberate scratch of your stylus, a testament to the immense value of the words taking shape under your careful hand. One moment of carelessness, one spilled drop of ink, could ruin a day's labor and a small fortune in materials. But before your stylus ever touches that expensive parchment, your real work begins on a far humbler surface. Reaching to the side of your desk, your fingers close around the familiar weight of your wax tablet. This is your scratch pad, your notebook, your first draft. It is a simple wooden frame about the size of a modern book, filled with a smooth layer of darkened beeswax. In your other hand, you hold your stylus. This essential tool is a slender rod of metal or bone, sharpened to a fine point at one end and flattened into a small spatula at the other. The pointed tip is for writing, carving clear, sharp letters into the soft wax surface. The flat end is your eraser, used to smooth the wax back to a blank slate with a few gentle passes. This simple combination is your rehearsal space. Here, you practice the most challenging letter forms from the exemplar, ensuring your hand is steady and your script is perfect. You might jot down a difficult phrase to memorize its rhythm, or even compose the entire first column of text as a rough draft. Only when you are completely confident in the flow of the words do you finally turn to the precious, permanent page, transferring your practiced hand from the temporary wax to the lasting record of the book. The ink you use is a world away from the simple black of a modern pen. You mix it yourself, a thick, sooty liquid made from the collected lampblack of 100 burning oil lamps. This fine carbon powder is painstakingly gathered, then ground with gum arabic as a binder and diluted with just enough water to achieve the perfect, flowing consistency. A single batch is a small fortune of labor, and you guard your ink pot fiercely, knowing a careless elbow could wipe out a week's wages. Your pen is a hollow reed, carefully selected and cut to a precise point. It lacks the rigid nib of a fountain pen, its tips softening and fraying with every line you write. Beside your ink pot lies your penknife, its blade worn thin from constant use. You pause every few sentences to resharpen the point, a delicate, practiced motion that turns the soft reed back into a precise writing instrument. This rhythm of writing and sharpening is as natural to you as breathing. The surface receiving your words is parchment, a sheet of specially treated animal skin. Its creation is a long, brutal process of soaking, stretching, and scraping hides until they become a smooth, uniform, and incredibly durable writing surface. Running your fingers across it, you feel a subtle grain, a faint memory of the creature it once was. Before any ink touches this expensive material, you prepare it with a ruler and a blunt stylus, scoring the page with a series of faint, guiding lines. These are your secret tracks, the invisible grid that keeps your letters perfectly aligned and uniformly sized, a silent testament to the discipline your craft demands. Every element, from the ink to the ruled lines, is a conscious step in a sacred process, transforming thought into a permanent object that could, with care, outlive empires. Your eyes lift from your own work to rest upon the exemplar, the original text that guides your hand. This is not a simple document. It is a scroll, aged and slightly brittle, loaned under strict conditions from the private library of a senator or a wealthy patron. The papyrus feels thin in some places, thick in others, a patchwork of plant fibers pressed together decades, maybe even a century ago. Your first task is not to write, but to read, and this is often where the true challenge begins. The ink, once a deep black, may have faded to a dull brown, forcing you to squint in the lamplight to distinguish a faint letter C from a G. You might find a small hole, the work of a bookworm that feasted on the scroll in storage, leaving a gap in a crucial line of poetry. Sometimes, the greatest obstacle is the hand of the copyist who came before you, their script hurried and sloppy, their letters crammed together in a way that turns a beautiful phrase into a frustrating puzzle. Your responsibility in this moment becomes immense. You are not merely copying words. You are a link in a chain, transmitting the ideas of a philosopher, the epic tale of a poet, or the precise language of a legal contract to a future you will never see. A single misinterpretation from your pen could alter a law, change the meaning of a prayer, or erase a piece of history forever. This pressure is the silent companion to every stroke you make, a constant reminder that the survival of knowledge rests on the accuracy of your craft. What happens when the chain is broken, when the text before you is damaged beyond easy repair? Your body becomes an extension of the pen itself, held in a posture of rigid discipline for hours on end. You sit perfectly upright on the hard stool, your spine straight and your shoulders level. Your left hand rests firmly on the desk, pinning the precious parchment in place, while your right hand grips the reed pen with a delicate but controlled pressure. The angle is everything, the tip of the pen meeting the page at a precise slant to ensure a clean, unbroken flow of ink. To form a single letter in the formal Roman rustic script, your hand must execute a series of deliberate, measured strokes. A capital R is not a single motion, but a careful sequence, a vertical downstroke, a perfectly curved shoulder, and a final leg that sweeps down and away. There is no room for haste or flair. Each letter must be a near-perfect mirror of the one before it, a regimented soldier in an unending line of text. For less formal work, you might switch to Roman cursive, a script born of necessity, where letters connect in a continuous, flowing hand that sacrifices some beauty for the sake of speed. Yet even this faster script demands absolute control, every ligature and loop executed with intention. The physical toll of this work is a constant presence. Your eyes, strained from deciphering faded exemplars in flickering light, begin to ache and blur. A dull throb builds at the base of your neck, a protest from the muscles held in fixed concentration. Most punishing of all is the cramp that seizes the tendons in your writing hand, a fiery knot that you must periodically stretch and massage away, knowing that the next column of text still waits, blank and demanding. This is the hidden cost of every beautiful page, paid in the silent currency of physical pain. The financial reality of your craft is as sharp and clear as the lines on your parchment. You are not just a preserver of words. You are a tradesperson in a bustling, competitive market, and the value of your labor is measured with a merchant's eye. Your employer could be one of several powerful figures in Roman society. Perhaps you work directly for a wealthy senator or a retired general, a private patron who is building a personal library as a monument to his own sophistication. For him, you are a household asset, a literate slave whose work adds to his family's prestige. Your payment in this life is not coin, but simple sustenance, a roof over your head, and the fragile security that comes with being valuable property. Alternatively, you might be a free citizen, hiring out your skilled hand to a commercial bookseller. This library owns a scriptorium, a workshop filled with copyists like you, all bent over desks, mass-producing texts for a growing public demand. Here, you are a piece of a larger machine, and your pay is often calculated with brutal efficiency, by the line or by the page. Every smudge, every misspelled word, is not just an artistic failure, it is a direct financial loss, a deduction from your already meager earnings. The state itself is another major employer, needing countless copies of legal codes, administrative decrees, and military dispatches. This work is often steady but carries its own immense pressure, for a single error in a legal document could alter the course of a court case or misdirect an entire legion. The relentless demand for speed and perfection creates a constant, grinding tension in your wrist and your mind. Can you afford the time to double-check a faded word in the exemplar? Or does the need to fill your coin purse force your hand to keep moving? Your life as a copyist is a delicate, daily balance between the intellectual ideals of preserving knowledge and the simple, urgent need to earn your daily bread. The first hint of dawn is not a welcome sight, but a signal. Your day begins long before the city stirs, in the cold quiet of the scriptorium. Your first task is to prepare your tools, a ritual as precise as the writing itself. You carefully mix a few drops of water into the dense, sticky ink, grinding it with a small stone to restore its perfect consistency. Then comes the pen knife, its blade whispering against the reed as you carve a fresh, sharp point, knowing it will be dulled to a blunt stump by midday. As the sun finally crests the horizon, its light floods your desk, and you begin. The morning hours are a silent marathon of concentration. The only sounds are the scratch of your stylus and the soft rustle as you gently turn the page of the exemplar. Your world narrows to the line you are copying, and the next line you must form. Every muscle is held in check, your back rigid, your hand a controlled claw around the pen. By the time the sun is high, a deep ache has settled into your shoulders, a familiar companion. The call for the midday meal is a brief, blessed respite. You set your tools down with care, stretching stiff fingers and rolling a neck that crackles with protest. The meal is simple, bread and perhaps some olives, eaten quickly in the courtyard, your eyes squinting against the bright light they have been denied all morning. Then it is back to the desk. The afternoon light is harsher, more direct, and your eyes begin to water from the strain of focusing on the tiny, faded letters. The cramp in your writing hand returns with a vengeance. a tight fist of pain that you must pause to massage away, glancing anxiously at the remaining blank parchment. This is the grueling reality, a cycle of physical discomfort measured out in inked lines. Yet, in a quiet moment, as you form the words of a Greek philosopher or a Latin poet, a different feeling pushes through the fatigue. It is the profound satisfaction of being the vessel for a great idea. Your hand, however tired, is giving new life to a thought that has survived centuries, ensuring it will journey forward. That fleeting connection to something timeless is the silent reward that makes the ache in your bones worthwhile. Two figures hold the power to shape your daily existence in the scriptorium, one representing the world of ideas, and the other the unyielding demands of production. The first is the librarian, a man whose mind is a repository of knowledge. He is often a Greek slave or a freedman, a scholar whose value lies not in his physical labor, but in his deep learning. It is he who selects the texts you will copy, choosing a philosophical dialogue by Plato for one patron, a bawdy comedy by Plautus for another, or a dry agricultural manual for a wealthy landowner. When you encounter a hole in the papyrus or a maddeningly ambiguous word in the exemplar, he is your final authority. You approach his desk with a quiet question, and he will ponder the damaged text, his fingers tracing the lines as he consults his own memory or a different scroll from the collection, reconstructing the lost meaning with a scholar's intuition. His approval is a quiet nod, his disapproval a soft sigh as he points out a subtle error in your transcription. He is the guardian of the text soul. The second, and far more immediate, presence is the overseer. This man is the master of the workshop's rhythm, a former copyist who ascended through flawless work and relentless discipline. His eyes miss nothing. He moves between the desks in a slow, silent patrol, his shadow falling over your work. He does not read for content, but for form. His gaze sweeps across your freshly inked lines, judging the uniformity of your letter spacing, the consistency of your slant, the crispness of every serif. A blot of ink, a letter that is slightly too large, a line that drifts upward from the guide marks. All of these are marks against you. He carries a small, flat piece of wood, and a tap of it on your desk is a silent, shaming reprimand. For repeated offenses, the punishments are more direct: a deduction from your pay, a reduction in your daily food ration, or the assignment of the most tedious and least prestigious work. The overseer ensures that every book leaving the scriptorium is mechanically perfect, a product of uncompromising standards. Your working life is a constant negotiation between these two masters, one who cares for the truth of the words, and the other who demands perfection in their physical form. The other copyists in the scriptorium are the only souls who truly understand the particular pressures of your world. They are a varied group, a living map of Rome's social order compressed into one quiet room. At the desk next to you might be a fellow slave, his skills making him a valuable, if unfree, asset to the household. Across the aisle could be a freedman, a former slave who earned his liberty through decades of flawless work, and now hires out his pen for wages. In the best-lit corner, you might even find a free-born citizen of modest means, relying entirely on this delicate craft to support his family. This shared labor creates a strange, unspoken bond. During a rare break, a low murmur of conversation fills the air. You might lean over to the scribe beside you, pointing to a particularly mangled word in your shared exemplar. How did he interpret this smudged line? He shows you his wax tablet, where he has tested two different possibilities. This quiet exchange is a lifeline, a small act of collective problem-solving that helps preserve the text for everyone. Complaints about a patron's terrible handwriting or the overseer's sharp eyes are whispered with a sense of mutual suffering, a brief release of the tension that builds with every finished column. Yet beneath this surface camaraderie runs a deep and constant current of competition. Every scribe knows that the most prestigious assignments, the copying of great poetry or philosophy for a senator's personal library, do not go to everyone. They are rewards given to the copyist with the most elegant hand and the fewest recorded errors. The favor of the librarian or the patron is a fragile thing, something to be earned and guarded. You notice small things, the way the overseer lingers a moment longer at one desk, a silent approval that feels like a threat. You might find yourself glancing at your neighbor's finished pages, counting their lines, comparing the speed of their progress against your own. In a workshop paid by the page, speed is money, and accuracy is your only guarantee of future work. This is the dual reality of the scriptorium, a place where you rely on your colleagues for survival even as you vie with them for a chance at a slightly better, more secure tomorrow. The specter of a single mistake haunts every movement of your hand. One slip, one moment of distraction, and the clean expanse of parchment is marred. The process of correction is a delicate, terrifying operation in itself. If you are working on parchment, you reach for your knife, not to sharpen your pen, but to carefully scrape away the wet ink. You hold your breath, applying just enough pressure to lift the pigment from the skin's surface without cutting through it. The goal is to create a slightly roughened patch that can accept new ink, but the surface is never quite the same. On the more fragile papyrus, the method is even riskier. You might use a damp sponge to wash the error away, but water can cause the woven plant fibers to swell and tear, leaving a permanent weak spot or a visible stain. Sometimes, the only safe choice is to admit defeat. You simply put a small dot or a subtle mark in the margin next to the flawed line, a permanent confession of your error for every future reader to see. This public admission of imperfection is a quiet humiliation, a scar on the page that tells a story of human fallibility. For a slave scribe, the consequences of consistent carelessness extend far beyond a blemished page. A pattern of errors could lead to a beating, a brutal and physical reminder that your body is as much a tool as your pen. For the freedman or the free citizen, the punishment is financial. The overseer's tally marks add up, each one a deduction from your pay, a direct reduction of the money that feeds your family. A major error, like misspelling a name in a legal document or omitting a line from a sacred text, could mean immediate dismissal, casting you back into the precarious struggle for work. Every time you lift your pen, you are not just writing words. You are walking a tightrope, balancing the beauty of the text against the very real and painful cost of a single flaw. Yet your work is not always confined to the stark beauty of black ink on a pale page. On rare and special commissions, the final stage of creation belongs to the illuminator, an artist who breathes color and life into the words you have so carefully inscribed. For a deluxe edition destined for a senator's villa or a temple's treasury, your precise columns of text are merely the foundation. Once the ink is fully dry and your part is complete, the parchment passes to a different set of hands, those of a specialist whose tools are not reed pens but fine brushes, and whose medium is not simple lampblack, but a small treasure chest of vibrant pigments. These colors are alchemy, painstakingly created from the earth itself. A rich, celestial blue is ground from powdered lapis lazuli, a stone hauled from distant deserts at immense cost. A vibrant vermilion red comes from cinnabar, a mineral mined from deep within the earth. Yellows and greens are coaxed from precious plants and minerals, each pigment mixed with egg white or gum to create a thick, luminous paint that will cling to the parchment for centuries. The illuminator's art begins modestly with an enlarged initial capital letter at the start of a chapter. This single letter becomes a canvas, transformed into a swirling vine of gold leaf and deep green, a tiny animal peeking from its curves, or an intricate geometric pattern. From there, the decoration might spread, climbing the margins of the page in delicate borders of red and blue, framing your text in a garden of color. In the most extravagant books, a full illustration might appear, a simple scene depicting a myth or a portrait of the author, all rendered in these breathtaking, expensive hues. This final, glorious transformation turns a functional object of knowledge into a sacred artifact, a work of art that appeals not just to the mind, but directly to the soul. The silent, disciplined scriptorium now holds a different kind of magic, the quiet scratch of the pen replaced by the whisper of a brush, weaving color into the very fabric of thought. Your finished pages represent only the beginning of the book's final form. When you complete a traditional scroll, your work passes to a different specialist, the glutenator. He takes your long, separate sheets of papyrus and carefully glues them together, edge to edge, creating one continuous strip that can stretch for 20 feet or more. The final sheet is then attached to a wooden roller, the umbilicus with decorative knobs, or cornua, protruding from each end. The reader will hold these knobs, unrolling the text with their right hand while rolling up the read portion with their left, a slow, two-handed dance through the narrative. But another, more revolutionary object is also taking shape in the workshop, an innovation that is quietly changing how the world reads, the codex. This is the true ancestor of the modern book, a stack of parchment sheets folded and sewn together at the spine. Your role in its creation is deeply physical. After you have written on the large sheets, they are folded in half, then in half again, creating a group of pages called a quire. You take a needle and strong linen thread, piercing the folded spine of the parchment, gathering and sewing it securely into place. This simple act of binding transforms loose leaves into a solid, unified object. The codex is a marvel of practical design. It is far more durable than a fragile scroll, its protected pages safe from the constant wear of unrolling and re-rolling. Its compact, dense form can hold the contents of multiple scrolls in a single, portable volume. Most importantly, it grants the gift of random access. A reader no longer has to scroll endlessly to find a specific passage. They can simply flip to the desired page, a revolution in reference and study that we take for granted today. In your hands, the ancient world is slowly closing its scrolls and opening its first true books. The final destination of your work reveals the vast intellectual landscape of the Roman world. Your most prestigious client is the Roman senator, a man whose sprawling villa on the Palatine Hill contains a library that is his greatest pride. He does not commission a book, he acquires an artifact. He wants a complete copy of Virgil's Aeneid, and his demands are uncompromising. The parchment must be the finest available, a creamy, flawless surface. Your script must be elegant and perfectly regular, a testament to the beauty of the Latin language. He cares nothing for speed, only for perfection. The finished scroll or codex will be placed in his library, less for reading and more for display, a symbol of his wealth, refinement, and connection to the great Roman literary tradition. In stark contrast is the wealthy merchant, a self-made man who has recently gained influence. He comes to the bookseller with a practical need. He requires copies of legal texts and commercial law, manuals on contracts and maritime trade regulations. For him, the book is a tool. He will scrutinize your work for absolute accuracy, knowing a single misread word could cost him a fortune in a lawsuit. He will haggle over the price per page and demand a quick turnaround. His copy will be functional, written on good but not extravagant parchment, its binding sturdy enough to survive frequent consultation in his busy office near the Tiber docks. Then there is the scholar, often a Greek teacher or a philosopher living on a modest stipend. He needs a specific dialogue by Plato or a treatise by Aristotle for his studies. He cannot afford a lavish edition. He might bring his own, cheaper papyrus and ask for a simple, legible hand, perhaps even the faster cursive script to reduce the cost. For him, the text itself is everything, the container is secondary. He will read your work intently, his fingers tracing the lines you inked, his mind engaged in a conversation across centuries. His copy will be filled with his own marginal notes, a second layer of thought inscribed alongside the first. Finally, there are the new, quiet clients from the early Christian communities. Meeting in secret homes, they seek copies of the Gospels and the letters of Paul. These texts are not for display, but for communal worship and instruction. They require durability above all else, books that can be passed from hand to hand and read aloud repeatedly. The writing must be clear and robust, and the binding of the codex, that new and sturdy format, is preferred for its resilience and portability. Their limited funds mean the work is often simple, but the care you take feels different, weighted with a profound new significance. Each of these clients looks at the same page you created, but one sees a status symbol, another a legal shield, a third a key to wisdom, and the last a pathway to salvation. Your hand served them all, but your work was never just a mechanical process. The words flowing from your pen were not empty shapes. They were living ideas, and your mind could not help but absorb them. You were not merely a copyist. You were a silent student. Your desk, a private classroom where the greatest thinkers of the age held their lectures for you alone. One day, your exemplar might be a speech by Cicero, his powerful orations against Catiline ringing in your mind as you formed each sentence. You could feel the rhythm of his arguments, the building fury and the sharp logic, and for a few hours you were no longer a humble scribe but a senator in the forum, defending the republic itself. The next week, you might be entrusted with a section of Livy's monumental history of Rome. As you carefully inscribe the tales of Horatius defending the bridge or the sack of the city by the Gauls, the epic sweep of centuries unfolded beneath your hand. You were not just writing history, you were preserving the very soul of your people, their triumphs and their tragedies. The work demanded more than a steady hand, it required deep comprehension. When copying a medical text by Galen, you had to understand the precise terminology for bodily humors and surgical procedures, ensuring that a future physician would not be led astray by a simple copying error. A single mistaken letter could change a diagnosis or a dosage, with life or death consequences. This intellectual engagement was your secret wage, a form of payment no overseer could measure. You were being paid in wisdom, your mind constantly expanding with philosophy, law, poetry, and science. And then there were the truly dangerous texts. To copy the poetry of Lucretius was to be drawn into a world of radical, subversive thought. His epic, On the Nature of Things, argued that the universe was made of atoms and void, that the gods did not interfere in human affairs, and that the soul died with the body. As you transcribed these revolutionary ideas, a part of you wondered, is this heresy or is it truth? To handle such a text was to hold a quiet, smoldering rebellion in your hands, a forbidden knowledge that challenged everything your society held sacred. In the deep quiet of the scriptorium, surrounded by the scratch of pens, a profound and personal transformation was taking place. What kind of person do you become when your daily labor fills your head with the most powerful, and sometimes the most perilous, thoughts ever conceived? The quiet of the scriptorium could be shattered by a single imperial decree. Your craft, a sanctuary of order and thought, could instantly become a front line in a silent war over memory itself. You might arrive one morning to find the librarian pale and tense, the overseer standing beside a pile of scrolls, their usual officiousness replaced by a grim solemnity. These were the texts of a senator who had fallen from the emperor's favor, his name now condemned to oblivion. Your task was not to copy them, but to erase them. This was damnatio memoriae, the condemnation of memory, made terrifyingly real. Your own hands, trained to preserve, were now ordered to destroy. You would take a sharp blade and carefully scrape the man's name from every document, or you would soak the papyrus in a vat of water, watching the ink of his speeches and poetry bleed away into a gray, meaningless soup. To refuse was treason. To hesitate was suspect. The work of a copyist was no longer about preservation, but about participating in the state's power to unmake a man from history. The danger was even more insidious when the text was not yet officially banned. Imagine your exemplar is a history, one that presents a previous emperor in a less than divine light, or a satirical poem that mocks the extravagance of the current court. There is no decree, only a pervasive, unspoken fear. Your pen moves, inking words that could be interpreted as criticism. Does your patron want this text for private study or for seditious discussion? You have no way of knowing. Every politically charged line you copy is a potential rope around your own neck. Association was guilt. If that scroll was later discovered in a raid on a dissident's home, the authorities could trace the handwriting back to your scriptorium, and by extension to you. A slave scribe could be tortured for information about who commissioned the work. A free copyist could face exile or the seizure of their property. Your careful, beautiful script could become the primary evidence against you in a trial for treason. This forced you to become a master of reading more than just faded letters. You had to read the invisible currents of power. You learned to walk a razor's edge, cultivating a deliberate ignorance. When copying a potentially dangerous text, you focused solely on the shape of the letters, divorcing them from their meaning. You saw not a critique of tyranny, but a sequence of A's and C's and T's. You trained your mind not to ponder, not to question, not to remember. In the marketplace of ideas, you had to be a blind shopkeeper, handling dangerous goods without ever looking at their labels. Your survival depended on this performative neutrality, on proving that your hand was a tool utterly separate from a mind that held no opinions. The greatest skill a copyist could possess was not flawless penmanship, but the ability to forget what they had written the moment the ink dried. Could you truly sever your mind from the powerful ideas your hand brought into the world? And was that quiet internal censorship a price worth paying for your own safety? The physical cost of your craft accumulates in 1,000 small agonies, each one a permanent signature of your profession. Beyond the temporary cramp in your hand lies a deeper, more debilitating threat known as Scribe's palsy. This is not mere fatigue, but a repetitive strain injury that seizes the delicate tendons of your wrist and forearm, transforming them into a knot of fiery pain. What begins as a dull ache evolves into a persistent tremor, a weakness that makes holding your pen an exercise in torment. Some days, your fingers simply will not obey. refusing to form the clean, crisp curves of a perfect letter C. The very tool that grants you your livelihood becomes an instrument of torture in your own grip. This damage is compounded by the relentless demand of your posture. For hours each day, your spine is held in rigid alignment, your shoulders hunched forward over the desk. This fixed position places unbearable pressure on the muscles of your lower back, creating a chronic, grinding ache that follows you home and lingers through the night, a dull reminder of the work that awaits at dawn. Your eyes pay another heavy price. Staring for hours at tiny, faded letters in the inconsistent light of a lamp or a high window forces the muscles within your eyes to strain beyond their limits. They grow dry and tired, and over the years, your vision itself begins to deteriorate. The world beyond your desk starts to blur, the faces in the forum softening at the edges, a permanent haze settling over your sight as the price for the sharp focus you maintain on the page. Perhaps the most insidious hazard, however, is the very air you breathe. Your workspace is filled with invisible threats. Every time you sand a piece of parchment with a pumice stone, you release a fine, pale dust from the animal skin into the air. This dust coats your throat and lungs with every breath. The inks and especially the vibrant pigments used by the illuminators emit faint, acrid fumes in your poorly ventilated room. You inhale the residue of powdered minerals and toxic compounds day after day, leading to a persistent, dry cough and a tightness in your chest that never fully abates. Your body, in its quiet rebellion, keeps a ledger of its own, recording the true cost of every beautifully inscribed page in a currency of pain, weakness, and breath. Your place in the Roman world was defined long before you ever picked up a stylus. Were you a slave, a piece of property whose literacy made you a prized asset? Your life in the scriptorium was one of strange contradictions. You were valuable, yes, but you were still owned. Your body, your time, your very skill belonged to your master, a senator or a wealthy merchant building his library. Your payment was not coin, but the roof over your head and the food you were given, a fragile security that could vanish with a single displeased glance. The fear was a constant companion, not just of making a mistake, but of displeasing your owner. A ruined page could mean a beating, a demotion to hard labor in the fields, or even being sold away from the only life you knew. Yet, within those confines, you held a peculiar power. Your mind was filled with the words of philosophers and poets, a secret education paid for by your master's ambition. You were a living paradox, a captive holding the keys to knowledge. If you were a freedman, your life was a story of hard-won independence. You had likely started as a slave scribe, and through decades of flawless work, or perhaps the grateful will of a dying master, you had been granted your liberty. Now you hired out your pen for wages, a free man in the eyes of the law. But your freedom was a delicate thing. You had no patron to fall back on in a lean season. Every error, every slow day, meant an empty purse. You competed directly with slave scribes who cost their masters nothing beyond their upkeep, forcing you to work faster and cheaper just to secure a commission. Your entire livelihood depended on the reputation of your hand, a reputation built over a lifetime, but which could be shattered by a single bad contract or a jealous rival. You had traded the security of bondage for the precarious reward of self-determination, a gamble you faced with every new piece of parchment. Then there was the freeborn citizen, the man born to Roman parents of modest means. You had chosen this path, perhaps after a basic education revealed a talent for letters. For you, the scriptorium was not a cage or a lifeline, but a profession. You walked in each morning by right, not by permission. You could negotiate your pay, refuse a job from a difficult patron, and leave one workshop for another that offered a better rate. Yet this freedom came with its own invisible chains. You carried the entire financial burden of your life, your family, your home, your taxes, on the strength of your cramping hand. There was no master to provide for you in sickness or old age. A prolonged illness, a downturn in the book trade, or simply the slow decay of your eyesight could plunge you into poverty. You enjoyed a social standing the slave and the freedman could only dream of, but you bore the full, lonely weight of that standing every single day. This fundamental distinction shaped every aspect of your existence, from the food you ate to the consequences you faced. For the slave, punishment was swift and physical, a lash for carelessness. For the freedman and the freeborn, the punishment was financial, a deduction from your pay that meant a hungrier family. The slave copied the texts his master demanded. The free scribe could, in theory, choose his work, gravitating toward the poetry or history that interested him, if he could afford the luxury of choice. Your social status was the lens through which you experienced every triumph of a perfectly rendered page and every terror of a spilled inkpot. It was the unspoken truth of the scriptorium, the silent hierarchy that determined whether you were preserving knowledge for a master, for a wage, or for your own legacy. The quiet of the scriptorium was not an empty silence, but a dense tapestry of deliberate sound. The dominant rhythm was the steady, percussive scratch of reed pens moving across parchment, a sound like fine sand being sprinkled on a hard floor. This was the baseline, the constant proof of work in progress. Against this backdrop, smaller sounds defined the space. You would hear the soft, dry rustle of a scroll being carefully unrolled on the next desk, a librarian searching for a reference. A low, guttural cough would occasionally break the concentration, followed by the shuffling of feet as someone rose to stretch their legs. The most intimate sound was the soft, whispered murmur of a scribe reading a difficult passage aloud to himself, testing the rhythm of the words before committing them to the page. And cutting through it all was the sharp, precise scrape of a penknife being drawn along a reed, a metallic whisper that signaled a fresh start, a new point being honed for the next line of text. This was not the silence of a tomb, but the focused quiet of a dozen minds engaged in a single, sacred task. The air itself seemed to hum with concentration, a world built not on noise, but on the profound discipline of listening to the past and inscribing its echo for the future. Every book you completed was a quiet gamble with time itself. You were not simply earning a wage or fulfilling a command. You were casting a vote on what parts of your world would be remembered. The poems you copied, the philosophies you transcribed, the histories you preserved, these were the very threads from which the tapestry of Western civilization would be woven. A single manuscript carried from your desk could be the last remaining copy of a great work. Its survival through fire, flood, and the slow decay of centuries was never guaranteed, but it always began with you. Your hand was the first, fragile link in a chain of transmissions stretching across millennia. Think of the Roman poet Catullus, his passionate and deeply personal verses. His entire body of work is believed to have survived antiquity in just one single copy, likely a codex painstakingly created by a scribe much like you, which was then rediscovered centuries later in the Middle Ages. That one book, that one copyist, saved an entire voice from the silence of history. Your accuracy was the lifeblood of this survival. A single misread word in a line of Plato could subtly shift the meaning of a philosophical argument for every thinker who followed. An omitted line from a historical chronicle could erase a crucial event from the human record forever. You worked without any knowledge of which texts would make the perilous journey to the future. The popular novel everyone was reading might vanish without a trace, while the dense philosophical text you found so difficult to parse could become the foundation of modern thought. You were an unsung hero of cultural preservation, a direct and indispensable bridge between the ancient world and our own. The legacy you left was not inscribed on a monument, but on the fragile, resilient pages that carried the voice of your era forward, long after your name was forgotten. Your disciplined world of ink and parchment was not a solitary island. While your hand traced the letters of Virgil and Cicero, other hands in distant lands were engaged in the same sacred struggle against time and error. Far to the east, in the quiet of a Jewish scriptorium, a sofer sat at his task. His work was a form of worship, for he was copying a Torah scroll, the very word of God. His rules were even more exacting than your own. He could not write a single letter from memory. His eyes had to be on the exemplar for every character. He used a feather quill and a special black ink, and the parchment was made from the skin of a kosher animal. A single mistake, a single flawed letter, could render the entire scroll unfit for use in the synagogue, forcing him to scrap the sheet and begin that section anew. His was a craft bound by divine law, where spiritual purity was as crucial as calligraphic skill. Meanwhile, along the life-giving Nile, an Egyptian scribe's world was defined by a different kind of permanence. He worked with papyrus, the very plant that grew in the river's marshes, and his script was not a simple alphabet, but the intricate, beautiful picture writing of hieroglyphs. Each symbol, from a soaring eagle to a coiled serpent, carried a weight of meaning, and his training required him to memorize thousands of these signs. He might be inscribing a pharaoh's glory on a temple wall, or penning a mundane tax record for a government official. His status elevated far above the common laborer toiling in the sun. His brush moved with a fluid grace, connecting his world to a civilization that had already been ancient when Rome was just a collection of huts. And in the vast courts of Han Dynasty China, a scribe worked with a brush of animal hair, ink ground from soot on an inkstone, and strips of bamboo or precious silk. He transcribed the wisdom of Confucius or the edicts of the emperor in a flowing, character-based script that demanded a different kind of mental discipline. His culture had already perfected paper, a revolutionary material that was lighter and cheaper than any parchment or papyrus. Yet his role was the same as yours. He was the guardian of administrative order, of poetic beauty, and of historical memory. From the Temple Mount to the Yellow River, the scratch of the pen and the whisper of the brush were universal. The copyist was the essential engine of civilization, a silent, dedicated force ensuring that laws, stories, and faiths would not be lost to the relentless silence of the past. The romantic image of a solitary monk, illuminating a sacred text by candlelight in a stone cell, belongs to a world centuries removed from your own. Your reality as a Roman copyist was far more commercial, a secular trade practiced in the bustling heart of a living city. You were not a monk, but a professional artisan, and your scriptorium was a workshop, not a cloister. The texts you copied were not exclusively, or even primarily, religious. Your daily work was far more likely to involve a contract for a shipping magnate, a comedy by Terence for a wealthy patron's entertainment, or a philosophical treatise by Seneca than a book of Psalms. The silence of your workspace was not for prayerful contemplation, but for intense concentration, a practical necessity to avoid costly errors in a business built on speed and accuracy. There were no Gregorian chants echoing in the background, only the pragmatic scratch of pens and the occasional low murmur of a colleague asking for help with a difficult word. Your focus was on the technical perfection of the letter forms and the flawless transmission of the text, a craft honed for a market of readers who sought knowledge, legal precedent, and entertainment as much as they sought spiritual guidance. This grounding in the secular, commercial world of ancient Rome makes your role not less significant, but more profoundly human. You were not separated from society by your vocation. You were deeply embedded within its economic and intellectual currents, a skilled professional whose daily labor helped fuel the engine of an entire civilization. The inkpot tips with a slow, almost graceful finality, its dark contents spilling across the parchment in a spreading black tide. For one heart-stopping moment, you can only watch, your hand frozen in midair as the ink drowns a full day's work, a week's labor, obliterating the final columns of a nearly complete codex. This was no ordinary commission. This was a deluxe edition of Virgil's Aeneid, its creamy parchment specially ordered, its script your most elegant, destined for the personal library of a senator known for his temper and his pride. Panic is a cold flood in your chest. Your first instinct is a desperate, futile act, grabbing a cleaning rag and dabbing at the liquid. But this only smears the blackness, blurring perfect letters into a grotesque, murky cloud and grinding the pigment deep into the skin's fibers. The damage is absolute. The expensive parchment is ruined beyond any scraping or washing. The entire quire, perhaps the entire book, is lost. The overseer's shadow falls over the disaster. The usual quiet tap of his wooden baton does not come. Instead, there is only a profound, terrifying silence as he stares at the destruction. His face is a mask of cold fury. He does not shout. His voice drops to a low, venomous whisper as he calculates the loss aloud. The cost of the fine parchment, the weeks of labor, the patron's certain rage, the stain on the workshop's reputation. Each item is a hammer blow. If you are a slave, your mind races to the physical consequences. A beating is almost a certainty, but could this level of waste see you sold off to the mines? Your literate hands condemned to a short, brutal life of swinging a pickaxe. If you are a freedman or a free citizen, the terror is financial. The cost of the materials and the lost labor will be deducted from your pay. This single accident could wipe out months of earnings, plunging your family into debt and hunger, and ensuring no reputable library will ever hire you again. This is more than a mistake. It is a catastrophe that threatens to erase the life you have built. In the agonizing silence that follows, you are left staring at the blackened page, the epic tale of Aeneas now buried under the evidence of your own fallibility, wondering if this one moment of clumsiness has just ended your career. But the fear of a spilled ink pot was a tiny, personal terror compared to the cataclysm that haunted the collective nightmare of every copyist. In the back of your mind, a darker dread always simmered, the ultimate fear for any preserver of knowledge, the destruction of the great libraries themselves. The legendary Library of Alexandria was the pinnacle of this dream, a repository designed to hold a copy of every book in the known world. Its burning was not just a fire, it was a wound in human history from which we never fully recovered. Imagine the sheer, unimaginable scale of that loss. Within its walls were centuries of accumulated thought, unique copies of plays by Sophocles, scientific treatises by Archimedes, entire histories of forgotten empires, and philosophical works whose arguments simply vanished from the earth. Each of those scrolls and codices represented the life's work of a scribe just like you, someone who had sat for months, perhaps years, carefully inking those words onto precious papyrus. believing they were building a fortress for knowledge that would stand for all time. To see that fortress burn would be to witness the annihilation of countless lifetimes of labor, the silencing of a million voices in a single roaring conflagration. The heat of those flames would have been felt not on the skin, but in the soul, a searing pain for every idea, every poem, every discovery that turned to ash and was lost forever. This was the copyist's true nightmare, the understanding that for all your discipline and painstaking care, the fragile threads of memory could be severed in one violent, senseless moment, erasing whole chapters of the human story as if they had never been written at all. The life of a Roman book copyist was a profound contradiction, a daily grind of physical pain and financial pressure that somehow opened a window to the most sublime ideas of the ancient world. You were an artisan whose body bore the cost of every perfect letter, a tradesperson whose livelihood depended on the unerring steadiness of your hand, and a silent scholar whose mind was shaped by the dangerous and beautiful thoughts you transcribed. This was not the work of a mere machine, but of a dedicated human bridge, a fragile yet essential link in the great chain of memory. Without these countless, nameless scribes, working in the quiet of their scriptoria, the foundational texts of our civilization would have vanished into the silence of the past. They chose, with every stroke of their pen, which words would survive empires and which would be lost to fire and decay. The next time you hold a book in your hands, or read a line from Virgil or Plato, pause for a moment. Remember the lamplight flickering against the dark, the ache in a forgotten scribe's shoulder, and the quiet dedication that carried those words across 2,000 years to find you. We would love to hear which ancient text you would have chosen to copy. Would it be a lost play by Sophocles, a philosophical dialogue, or a great epic poem? Share your choice in the comments below.